It may be a bit of a cliche, but for me personally, I don't think there is anything better than spring cleaning. I'm a bit of a neat freak and I love organization, so I love getting recalibrated every spring with a cleaning and a new setup. In fact, I love cleaning so much that I started a cleaning company. Within the first year, I actually had a bunch of accounts and business was actually great. When the spring season was rapidly approaching, I decided to do a spring cleaning sale where I would clean the house for a discounted price. I ended up getting a lot of hits and had to pick just a few clients since I couldn't take every new client for the sale. A good problem to have, I suppose, and selfishly I picked the biggest houses in the nicest areas, figuring that I could charge more because I would be there longer cleaning the bigger house. The first 2 days I cleaned 2 houses each day and I made a killing even at the discounted price. On Wednesday, I only had 1 house scheduled to clean. The owners contacted me and told me that they had been living in Florida all winter and that the house was vacated. She told me that her nephew had been living there for a few months while he was waiting to move into his new home, but he moved out over a month ago. So this woman just wanted me to go in and give the house a really good cleaning and make sure everything is perfect for when they come home on the weekend. Another reason why I only took on this one client for the day was because the house was huge. It looked like a house from a movie, it was so big. When I arrived at the house, I was happy that I had made the decision to make sure that this was my only house for the day. It was even bigger than I originally thought from the pictures, and when I went inside, I was nearly knocked over by the stench of rotting food or something. Her nephew, who was supposed to have cleaned before he left, clearly didn't. The inside looked like a frat house. There was garbage and beer cans everywhere. The first thing I did was open all the windows to get some air in here and hopefully air the place out for the horrific stench that plagued this beautiful home. A few hours in, I was about halfway done with the house. It was already starting to look and smell better than it did when I arrived. I had headphones in as I was cleaning, and even though I had my music loud, I thought that I could hear some movement in between songs and felt that I could feel some movement every now and then from the vibrations in the house. I chalked it up to the house just being big and drafty, especially since the windows were all wide open. As I neared the completion of the cleaning of the house, my headphones started to die. The beauty of wireless headphones, I thought, and I brought my headphones back downstairs and threw them in my bag. I went back upstairs to finish cleaning the bedroom and the bathroom that was upstairs. Luckily for me, there were a lot of rooms upstairs that just looked like spare bedrooms and they didn't need a lot of work. Just as I was finishing, I could hear shuffling coming from above me. I know what drafty houses sounds like, and this was not that. This was clearly some kind of movement. My first thought was that an animal of some kind had gotten into the attic. The thought of anything else didn't even cross my mind. The last thing I wanted was for these people to come home and have to deal with a squirrel or raccoon in the attic, so I figured that I would try quickly to get the animal out before I alerted the homeowners. I made my way up to the attic as slowly as I could, so I didn't alert the animal. I figured the element of surprise would be my best friend. The stairs to the attic were incredibly high and narrow. The attic was 3 stories up, and it was a high 3 stories. I got to the attic, and I didn't see anything at first other than a whole bunch of boxes in storage. Your typical attic stuff, old clothes, Christmas decorations, some heirlooms, and just about any other junk that you can think of. The smell up in the attic was horrible, worse than the rest of the house. I slowly stepped through the maze of boxes, trying to keep the creaky floor at a minimum. As I navigated the attic, I noticed more cans and food residue. When I walked up to a stack of boxes, I saw a pair of boots coming from the side of the box. As I closed in on the boots, I noticed the boots had a blanket laying on top of them, and it appeared to be something stacked. As I examined it closer, it looked like the blanket was moving. I thought that the raccoon must be hiding under the blanket, eating food residue. I grabbed the blanket and whipped it off, and my heart fell in fear. It was not a raccoon. It wasn't an animal. It was a person. An older man turned. He looked at me, looking just as scared as I was. I instinctually screamed and just ran out of the attic. I heard the man shouting for me to wait, but I wasn't going to. And for some reason, instead of calling the police, I called the homeowners first to make sure that they didn't know this person was there, and they were more horrified than I was, so I called the police. All during these calls, I sat in my locked car and didn't even pay attention to the house. When the cops showed up, they searched the house. They weren't able to find any sign of this man, as he appeared to have fled in the time that I was out in my car on the phone. After going through the rigmarole and dealing with the police, we went up to the attic and had a chance to really look around. There were dozens of beer cans and soda cans and a ton of other garbage left over from food. I guess they deduced that this guy must have been living up there for quite some time, considering the smell and how much food was there. It was honestly appalling. When the homeowners got back from Florida, I caught up with them and we talked about the incident. I guess the police told them that whomever this guy was, he must have gotten to the house when the nephew was staying there and decided to hide out in the attic for as long as he could. Even though the guy looked like he intended no harm, the thought of an unwanted stranger living in your home is something I never want to experience. Thankfully, nobody was hurt in this story, but the thought of that face looking back at me when I moved the blanket will forever be burned into my mind. If you enjoyed this scary story, listen to thousands more, either over on the Let's Read YouTube channel or podcast.